Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Imam Hazik bin Muhammad Zailan, and today me and my group mate, we will talk about bicycle kick skill analysis. Okay, first we go on to introduction of the skill. Background of the sport. Football is a team sport that have been played by two teams of 11 players on the pitch for 90 minutes. Research found that football is originated at ancient China, Greece, Rome, and part of Central America also claim to have studied this sport back then. Sorry. But in the modern world, it was England who transitioned football into the game that we know today. As the sport evolved during times, there are many football players that are well known for history that they have made, such as Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, Diego Maradona, Johan Cruyff, and many more. Rules of sport. These are the basic rules that every player need to follow in order to play. First is the team with the most goal win. Next, the ball must cross the opponent goal line in order to score. After that, a game lasts for 90 minutes. A game is divided into two halves of 45 minutes. Maximum of 11 players on each team and at least 7 players on each team. Only goalkeeper who can allow to touch ball by using their hand. Opponent team need to bring the ball in if the opposition team make the ball goes out of play. Any play that is considered careless, reckless, or using excessive force is an offense and free kick will be rewarded to the opposition team. Selected skill. Selected skill for this research is bicycle kick. This is because bicycle kick is one of the uncommon skill in football. Because of this skill requires players to perform an acrobatic movement in the mid-air to kick the ball towards the opponent goal. The other name for this skill is overhead kick and scissors kick. This is because of when someone do the bicycle kick, the ball usually over their head. The ball are usually high, and scissors kick is the movement of the leg is moving like a pair of scissors. Next is movement of the skill. First is player need to make a leap with his kicking leg while the player is lying on his back. The non-kicking leg must follow the movement of the body in order to give more momentum and power to the kicking leg to perform the bicycle kick. Players need to move their back until their back is parallel to the ground. Players need to swift their kicking leg upward, speed simultaneously with the movement of the non-kicking leg that is moving downward when reaching the peak of its height to give more power to kicking ball. Vision should be stay focused on towards on the ball movement, meanwhile arms are used to provide balance when the body in the air and to minimize the impact of falling. These are the muscle involved the during the bicycle kick. First is hamstring muscle group, bicep femoris, semitendinous, semimembranous. Then gluteus group, gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, and gluteus maximus. Gastrocnemius muscle, and quadricep group, which is rectus femoris, vastus intermedius, vastus medialis, and vastus lateralis.
Okay, for the task analysis, there are four phases. For the first one is a starting position phase. Starting position phase, for the first one is position must turn back where the ball to go. And next is ready to jump or take off. After that is use the hand swing to add on more force applied. And for the fourth point is fall backward to kick the ball up and over the head. And last is stay the vision on the ball. For the next is task analysis for take-off phase. For the take-off phase, we must push the kick foot to start the motion, lift the knee of non-dominant foot and push out of the ground with the kicking foot. Dip head and shoulder backward throw body momentum backward as trying to get away from the ball and flop back down on the ground. Focus the kick and making contact with ball by not falling back super fast. For the contact phase, lift the kicking leg straight up while falling. Bring non-kicking foot back down toward the ground and bring kicking leg which jump off up toward the ball to make contact. Using non-kicking leg to propel and give leverage to kick the ball backward. Strike the ball by using the ridge of the hardest part of the top of foot, driving the ball straight, overhead and back behind. For the last phase is follow through phase. Okay, in follow through phase, the first one is brace self, put arm out to the side to brace the falling impact. Opening the arm as wide as possible, take the impact of landing to protect the hips and back of body part from injured. Leg continue to follow the direction of kicking with full range of motion to maintain the force applied. Okay, now we move on to form of motion. In form of motion, for the first one is angular motion. Angular motion is the leg of the athlete moving around the fixed point or axis with all part of the body moving at different speeds and force applied during jump take-off phase until the contact phase. For the second form of motion is curvilinear motion. Curvilinear motion defined as motion that occurs when a particle travels along a curved path. It can be found on the ball after the contact phase, where the ball is moving with a curved path moving toward the goalpost from the subject. And for the last form of motion is Newton's second law of motion. Newton's second law of motion is the acceleration of the ball during mid-air when contact phase occurs. During the contact phase, the ball is on the air and the athlete produces force by kicking the ball. The ball velocity is increased same as the force that been applied. Force is equal to the acceleration time the mass of ball. And now we're moving on to the lever system. In this skill performance, the lever system that acquired is third class lever. First, for the third class lever is force disturbed in altered in respect to the fulcrum. The fulcrum is still at one end of the beam in third class levers, but the force of the effort is now positioned between the fulcrum and the force of the load. A force is always located in between the resistance, load and the fulcrum. The effort arm is shorter than the resistance arm. This favors speed and range of movement allow the player to.
Okay, next we go to the torque and Magnus effect. So, torque is when a force is applied to an object, either translation or generation motion will occur. So, torque is when you put a force to the object, for example, the ball. So, the ball will gain the translation or generation motion to the direction that we want. Next is the more force put the object, the speed and accuracy of object is increasing. So when a person put a force to an object, the object will moving faster, and the accuracy will get higher a little bit. And but when you for example, when you do the bicycle kick, you hit at the center of the ball, so the ball will go straightly to the direction that you want. Okay, lastly is Magnus effect. A Magnus effect is an observable phenomenon that associated with spinning object that moving through the air or fluid. So as you can see at the picture that I provide, so Magnus effect is when the object is moving through the air and fluid. So the air and the air or the fluid will push and will give the support to the object to move or spin the ball. So we go to the next slide.
Okay, for the sequence of movement for the bicycle kick, there's three phase, which is the jumping. You can see the image from the slide, and the scissors, and the last one, the ball striking.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Sir Muhammad Noor. My name is Muhammad Ashraf bin Yusof. I will present about purpose of analysis. In biomechanics, we measure numerous movement of the athlete during football or velocity motion when they performing a bicycle kick will be investigated in 5 stages of movement, which are jumping phase, takeoff, bicycling phase, ball contact, and landing phase with follow-through phase of range of motion, kinematics and kinetics of an action to see how they affect the result, which in football is the speed generated when kicking with power and precision. This study will look at the joint angle translation when executing a bicycle kick, as well as how specific segments are used to produce a unique coordinated pattern that transfer force. So next slide is how we set up the photo and analysis. So the video was taken during international match between Sweden versus England on 14 November 2012, which Sweden win 4-2 against England. The subject we use is Swedish forward Zlatan Ibrahimovic, which is he do a stunning 35-yard bicycle kick, which he scored during 91 minutes. We use laptop and Kinevia framework to make it easier for complete tools to evaluate the photo and the video. For your information, Zlatan Ibrahimovic won the FIFA Puskas Award. From you look at the right picture for the beautiful bicycle kick during the 2013 Ballon d'Or ceremony. So for the next slide, kinematic properties of the skill. Kinematic is the study of how bodies move without considering the force or potential field that impact them. To put it another way, kinematic is the study of how momentum reacts to energy exchange among interacting bodies. Kinematic analysis is a study of motion in the body, limbs, and joint that occurs during movement. This analysis is non-invasive, meaning that objective data of limbs and joint will be collected. For the picture right here, we see how a person or athlete perform a bicycle kick in football. So range of motion, this is a category of kinematic. When the subject doing bicycle kick in football, the lower extremity part of the body is important to produce the great velocities at the foot of the athlete, which product with good kicking. The motion, since the player body is high above the ground and angle upward, the kicking leg has a greater distance than normal to travel before hitting the ball when doing the bicycle kick. This allows the leg of the athlete to gain momentum and increases its angular velocity. Second, the height of release. The height of release that taken by the athlete when making contact with the ball is 15 meters. The angle of leg joint when about to do kick is 105 degrees. The leg extension between the subject leg and the ball is 13.99 meter. As we see on the right picture, that's Kinovia do a Kinovia on the picture. As we see, he do a Zlatan Ibrahimovic do a bicycle kick. So the circumstances is extremely tough for a novice athlete because to handle, since they must change their jumping time, technique of the bicycle kick, and body angle. The height and angle of release will have a significant influence on the flight path and range of the ball to fall. which is determined by the difference between the angle of attitude and angle of vector velocity. So the third is speed and velocity, and fourth is body alignment. Speed and velocity. The time taken for acceleration of or velocity that taken by the subject when making a contact with the ball, which is in bicycling phase until the follow through phase, is 3 seconds. So the speed of the ball actually depends upon athlete foot strength. It will go as fast as he will hit. The time taken for acceleration or velocity that taken by the subject when making a contact with the ball, which is in bicycle phase, and the speed also is defined as the ratio of distance to time, and it can also be thought of as the pace at which an item cover a distance. So the more force is the faster and the faster the rate of movement, the more force is generated on the movement, which enhance the optimal forces in the movement and resulting in a good strike on the ball. So fourth is body alignment. So the body alignment is less stress on the spine and affecting any movement in terms of stability and effectiveness of movement. It also applies a proper body alignment for start the motion of the bicycle kick. The player lift the knee of the athlete lift the knee of their non-dominant foot and push off the ground with their kicking foot. So it can start doing the bicycle kick from face to face. So the athletes must have a proper center of gravity when in jumping motion that produce stability and the body as momentum carries their backward, which is bicycle the legs, bringing non-kicking foot back down forward the ground and bringing their kicking leg, which they jump off up toward the ball to make the contact. So next is jumping height. So the subject jumping height during the bicycle kick is 50.86 meters, which is his ideal height for creating a larger trajectory angle while making contact with the ball and resulting in a greater strike. His leg is fully extended in order to transfer power to his foot, and his leg is fully extended in order to kick the ball with power to the goal post. So we can see at the picture, Zlatan Ibrahimovic extend his foot, both foot, which his dominant foot on the right and the non-dominant foot is on the left, which is separate about 105 degree, and the height is 15.8 meter, which is stunning kick of Zlatan Ibrahimovic do. This is impossible for the novice to do, but for the professional footballers, they can do very well. Okay, for the projection angle and trap path, the projection angle and trap path is 30 degrees, which categorized as good release angle because the best optimal angle of release is somewhat less than 45 degrees. The interrelation between angular motion and linear motion is 3 seconds, which comes from the speed of the ball after the subject doing a bicycle kick from the contact point to the goal post. Best bicycle kick in football is who the one that have ability to while at airborne. They use their kicking leg to kick at the ball while also bringing their leg free leg down simultaneously, redirecting The ball with a little tap would be better if they could make it a little more accurate by trapping the ball first and actually looking at the goal. So as we're looking at the picture, at the right, we can see Zlatan Ibrahimovic see Joe Hart, the England goalkeeper, run towards outside the box, and he see the goalpost. No one at the goalpost. So he do a bicycle kick, about 30 degrees angle of the ball. After he do the bicycle kick, the ball go upward, but uh, the ball go to the goalpost uh, downwards, and he do a beautiful bicycle kick, which is like I say, he won the Puskas Award for the beautiful goal. And for the bicycle kick, it's about surprise and power, meaning that the subject got to forcefully bash the ball, so it doesn't matter where it ends up, as long as it ends up on the goal. In football, having a good bicycle kick technique is one of the most difficult skill to perfect, since there are so many elements and points to consider while executing the bicycle kick.
Okay, so kinetic properties. What is kinetic properties? So kinetic properties is different type of motion of an object when it's moving. So kinetic properties is movement that need the mass and speed. So uh, our action that put force so that the object moving to the direction. So kinetic is a moving technique or a moving movement. And then rotational moving, such as rotational moving when the object experiences the torque or force. So the kinetic properties is like when you stand still, you do the phase of kicking. So that is the kinetic properties, like the picture at the above. Okay, and then I will do the comparison of the skill performance. So there are two, which is strength and weakness. Okay, so for the strength of the skill performance is the bicycle technique is cannot be applied easily. So if the player doesn't learn perfectly or doesn't learn completely the technique, it can uh, it can affect or decreasing the skill or the bicycle kick technique. And then the strength is the bicycle kick is one of the good skill that can be applied when the ball has come cross from our teammates. Okay, and then bicycle kick also has more speed and more power than the heading technique when a player want to score to the goal post. And then uh, bicycle key also need some space or need some comfortable space to perform smoothly and perfectly the technique, because it cannot be performed when you has another opponent that nearest to you. Okay, for the weakness is first the important is the weakness of the bicycle kick technique is a player is high has a higher risk to get injured. So like the picture that I provide. So this player has do the bicycle kick, but he has used his hand to do to landing to the field, and then the technique can affect and injure the shoulder. So as you can see in the picture, the footballer is suffering because get hurt to his shoulder. So it is bicycle kick technique is need some precaution, or we we need a good steps also, and need to learn perfectly before apply it in games or tournaments. Okay, and then bicycle kick also can harm other players. So what I have what I want to say here is, if you cannot do bicycle kick perfectly, you can harm other player also. So like I said before, if one do the bicycle kick technique, you must have a good space or a wide space to do the jumping and do the bicycle kick, because it can harm other players when you landing or when you kicking the ball in the air.
Okay, steps for maximizing skill performance in bicycle kick. First one is measure of force. There are 3 points, which is potential energy. While football is mostly about kinetic energy, to pull off a bicycle kick, a player needs potential energy, which is like rubber band pullback. The next one is centrifugal force. There also the centrifugal force to contend with as the player rotates his body to deliver the kick. Next one is gravity. To execute a bicycle kick, a player needs to have mildly strong thighs and legs. This power is required not only to propel himself off the ground, but also to overcome the gravitational pull acting on him. Next, technique of skill performance. To perform a bicycle kick, the ball must be airborne so that the player can hit it while doing a backflip. The ball can either come into the air towards the player, such as front cross, or the player can flick the ball up into the air. The non-kicking leg should rise first to help propel the body up, while the kicking leg must make the jump. While making the leap, the body's back should move rearward until it parallel to the ground. As the body reaches peak height, the kicking leg should snap towards the ball as the non-kicking leg is simultaneously brought down to increase the kick's power. Vision should also stay focused on the ball until the foot strike. Okay, for the last step, motion and momentum to perform a bicycle kick. The first motion is to lift your non-kicking foot up and propel your body off the kicking foot. Next, then comes to difficult part of bending your head and shoulders enough as to avoid the ball to pave the way for the kick. Then the bicycle kick motion comes into play as you lift the kicking foot over the other one to make contact with the ball. Next, while pulling off this acrobatic, you also cannot take your eyes off the ball this left your foot. Next, last one is and you split second to pull the stang while also taking care of the landing, and always better to stick your hand out to break the fall and avoid serious injury to the back or to the legs. Okay, for the conclusion for the bicycle kick, to be successful, football player must adapt their body movement according to ball weight, ball heights, and velocities. Bicycle kick can be used to surprise the opponent to score a goal, as well as important skill to use in other situations. In terms of effectivity, bicycle kick appears to be the best option when the player kicks the ball at a higher ball height, spending less swing time than kicking higher balls. Player also must use upper body movement and have to process less time to make the technique.
It's 5:50 something and I feel so empty inside.